Today, we are doing a deep dive into an album it's just this incredible collision of deep spiritual content and some really pioneering technology.
It really is. We're talking about Snoopy Botton's album, Words of Love.
And it really tells two stories at once. The first is, this powerful story of faith for anyone going through a hard time.
But the second story is about overcoming these almost unimaginable physical hurdles just to create the art in the first place.
Right. And that context is so important. Snoopy has cerebral palsy, he uses a wheelchair, and his speech can be difficult to understand.
Yet his ingenuity, especially back in 1999 when he first started this, it's on another level. He was literally forcing the technology of the day to do something it was never designed for.
Let's unpack that, because this is where the genius is. We're not just talking about typing lyrics into a computer.
No, not at all. He was using this software called DECTalk, and its main job was just reading text. Flat, monotone.
But he got it to sing.
Painstakingly. He had to manually assign every single phonetic sound, like the L and V in love, to a specific millisecond in time and a specific musical pitch.
So he was building the vocal performance from scratch.
Exactly. Syllable by syllable, note by note. It's almost impossible to comprehend the amount of labor that went into that before AI could do this stuff for you.
It's like the process itself mirrors the message of the album. This patient millisecond by millisecond overcoming of limits.
He didn't even have a musical background at first. He was starting from scratch on both the music theory and the coding.
And that's where Rita Rae comes in, right? The music therapist.
A crucial figure. The sources describe her patiently teaching him music theory from the ground up while he just wrestled with this machine.
And he's very honest about it. He admits the early attempts were, rough.
Oh, yeah. He said he was off-key, out of tempo. It sounded like a malfunction.
But the audience reaction wasn't, "This sounds bad." It was more like, "I can't believe this is even happening."
It was the novelty of it at first. People were just amazed a computer could sing at all. But for the disabled community, this wasn't just some novelty act, it was a breakthrough.
And I found this part incredible. He didn't keep the code to himself.
No, he didn't. He figured out the sequences to make the machine sing, and then he basically packaged that knowledge. He sent song files and instructions to other disabled people who used DECTalk.
So he was teaching them how to use their communication devices as instruments.
That's it, exactly. It was open source culture before that was really a thing. And that work is what earned him the Da Vinci Award. It wasn't just for the music, it was for the access he created.
So he masters the tool, or at least wrestles it into submission. He teams up with a collaborator, Mike Boss, who handles the musical backing, and they create Words of Love. Now, listening to these descriptions, the songs seem deceptively simple.
They are. And that brings us to the design philosophy of the album. The songs are repetitive, gentle, and structurally very basic. But that's an intentional feature, not a bug.
Right, the artist talks about this idea of crisis mode.
Yes. He explains that when tragedy strikes, when you're in the middle of a life crisis, you can't think deeply. You don't want complex poetry. Your brain is in fight or flight.
You just need reassurance.
You need something to hold on to. So he took what could be seen as a weakness, that he could only write simple songs at the time, and turned it into a strength. He made music for people in emotional freefall.
Let's get into the tracks, because the way he organizes this album feels like a journey. It starts with Surrender.
It does. Track 1 is the title track, Words of Love. And it's this kind of devotional inventory. The lyrics are a list of body parts being offered to God. I give my eyes, I give my ears, hands, feet.
Which on the surface, that sounds like a standard hymn. But the context is everything here.
The context changes the entire weight of that lyric. This is a man who has limited control over his own physical body. So when an able-bodied pop star sings, I give you my hands, it's a metaphor.
You're sure.
When this artist sings it, it's a much more profound act of surrender. He's lyrically offering up the very parts of himself that don't work the way he wants them to.
It's reclaiming ownership by giving it away.
Beautifully put. And that theme continues right into track 2, A Call to Prayer. This one is very instructional. You have a need, get on your knees.
It's blunt.
It is. It's concise. And the core philosophy is in the line. What we ask becomes God's task.
I highlighted that too. It rhymes, yeah, but it's actually a strategy for anxiety.
It's the idea of surrender all, don't recall. Once you hand the problem over, you aren't allowed to take the worry back. It's a transaction.
Then we move from surrender to what I call the mantra. Track 3, First Call on Jesus.
This is where that repetitive nature really becomes a tool. It functions as a chant. First call on Jesus and he will be there. And then he just lists human needs. Love, he's there. Peace, he's there.
It's hypnotic. You can imagine listening to this on a loop when you're just completely overwhelmed.
It's grounding. It's audio medication for that panning state we talked about.
Now, track 4. This one is specifically identified in the notes as Jesus.
Yes, Jesus.
I'm guessing that was just a working title that stuck.
It seems so, but the content is very polished. This is an anthem. It describes Jesus as the morning star.
It feels different. The first few tracks were asking for things. Peace, help. This one is just pure praise.
Exactly. The refrain is, "You're the one I live for." It shifts the focus from my problems to my purpose.
Then we get some really nice imagery in track 5, praising you.
This is one of my favorites, lyrically. It uses nature imagery to describe spiritual renewal, mercy falling softly, and dew upon the land.
Dry bones rise, dead hearts wake.
It connects that revival to the morning dew. It's a very quiet, gentle image of change, not a thunderclap. It fits that crisis mode theme. It's restorative, not loud.
Let's jump to track 7, Deep in My Heart. This one feels like it's addressing anxiety directly again.
It is. It's all about serenity. The key lyric here is, "Help me let go of no control."
Let go of no control. That's an interesting way to phrase it.
It suggests that we often think we have control when we really don't. We're gripping a steering wheel that isn't connected to anything. The song is a prayer to release that illusion.
And track 8, Eternally Changed. That feels like the before and after song.
Classic testimony structure. My life is rearranged. It lists all the ways the speaker has changed. Emotionally, spiritually, mentally, ultimately, it's a complete overhaul.
Okay, we need to spend a moment on track 10.
Yeah.
You Are Somebody. Because this is the track that explicitly addresses the disabled experience.
This is the anthem for self-worth. If the first half of the album is about God, this track is about the self. It directly confronts the idea that disability is some kind of mistake.
The lyrics are so powerful. God gave them 2 eyes, or 2 eyes that are blind, but they have hearing. Better than fine.
And then the line. 2 legs that can't walk, but with a wheelchair, they roll down the street.
I love that. It's so literal, but so affirming. It refuses to use euphemisms. It's just a fact.
And the theological argument he's making is that God makes no mistakes. You are his grand design. He says, God created no one else who can duplicate and be like you. He's arguing that uniqueness is intentional design.
Then we move into the heavy theological tracks. Track 11, Divine Sacrifice, kind of serves as a bridge here.
It is. It explains the core Christian belief. A love so pure it never shames. It sets up Jesus as the anchor in all pain.
And in track 12 is John 3:16. But he does something really interesting here. He breaks the fourth wall.
Yes. There's a spoken word section. The voice asks the listener directly, do you feel like something's missing? Do you feel there's something hissing away on the inside?
Hissing away on the inside. That is such a visceral image.
It really is. It creates this sense of internal dissonance, a leak in your soul, and then it leads into a sinner's prayer for the listener to repeat. It becomes interactive.
And then track 13, John 17, is more narrative.
It sets the scene of the Last Supper. The meal was finished. Feet had been washed. It's very solemn. It recounts Jesus's prayer for unity.
So we have this whole journey, but then there's a bonus track. Track 14, What is a Handicap?
And this isn't a song, it's a spoken word essay. And frankly, this is the philosophical anchor of the entire project.
It was originally written for a church service.
Correct. And its whole purpose is to deconstruct the word normal.
This part just blew my mind. He argues that normal isn't a word that should ever apply to people.
He makes a distinction between normal and regular. Regular is a routine, but normal, he says, implies a standard of manufacturing.
And he uses the tape analogy, which is so perfectly 1989.
It is. He says if you buy a Dolly Parton cassette tape, you expect to hear Dolly Parton. Every copy should be identical. If you heard JS back on that tape, that would be abnormal.
A manufacturing error.
Exactly. But humans aren't mass-produced. Since God made everyone unique, there is no standard model to deviate from. So scientifically and theologically, no human being can be abnormal.
Normal is a setting on a washing machine, not a description of a person.
Precisely. And he goes even further. He talks about sensory compensation, the idea that if you lose one sense, the others heighten.
He gives these beautiful examples. He talks about how a blind person can see a wall by feeling the change in air currents on their face.
I never thought of it that way. Feeling the air cushion against a wall.
And he says the deaf can hear by observing details others miss, like a single tear on a face that a hearing person might be too distracted by sound to notice. He frames these as alternative ways of processing the world.
Not as deficits.
But then he drops the biggest metaphor of the entire album, the spiritual wheelchair.
This is where he connects his physical reality to universal spiritual theology. He argues that sin is a handicap. It limits everyone.
Everyone is in a wheelchair.
In a spiritual sense, yes. He says when life gets rough, Jesus carries you. And in that way, Jesus becomes your spiritual wheelchair.
That completely reclaims the symbol of the wheelchair. Instead of a symbol of weakness, it becomes a symbol of divine support.
It flips the whole pity narrative. He concludes by saying, we shouldn't feel sorry for the handicapped. We should realize everyone has limitations and everyone has gifts.
Which brings us to the present day. Because this album was made in 1989, but the story doesn't end there.
No, it doesn't. The artist is currently remaking Words of Love,
using modern AI voices.
And this is where the deep dive really lands on the relationship between technology and talent. The artist posted something profound about this evolution.
I have the quote right here. He said, "Access doesn't create talent, it reveals it."
That is the key takeaway. He notes that using DECTalk, that monotone robotic voice, actually lowered the perceived quality of his work back then. The talent was there, the melodies were there.
But the hardware was a bottleneck. He said people had to get past the voice to hear the song.
Exactly. Now, with modern AI, he can add harmonies, bridges, voices that sound human and emotive. He's proving that the monotone nature of the original album was a hardware limitation, not an artistic choice.
He's fighting for updated equipment for the disabled community. And he makes the point that this isn't about luxury.
It's not about having the newest toy. It's about expression. If your equipment is outdated, your soul is muffled. Better technology allows the full resolution of a person's talent to come through.
It's amazing to think about. In 1989, he squeezed every ounce of emotion he could out of a few kilobytes of speech code. And now, the technology has finally caught up to his vision.
And Words of Love stands as this incredible bridge between those two eras. It's a time capsule of assistive tech, but the message about faith, worth, and the very definition of normal is completely timeless.
So what does this all mean for us?
I think it challenges us to look at voice differently. We often judge a message by the audio quality, so to speak. If someone speaks slowly or with an impediment or through a device, we can subconsciously discount the intelligence behind it.
We filter it out.
Yeah. This album proves that profound beauty can come through a monotone channel if we're just willing to really listen.
And it reminds us that normal is just a setting on a washing machine, not a description of a human being.
Well said.
That's a wrap for this deep dive into Words of Love. I want to leave you with a thought. What voice are you using in your own life? And are you judging the voices of others by the hardware they're using or by the message they're sending?
Something to think about.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next one.